So we're going to go ahead and get started. Thank you all so much for joining us this afternoon. This Ask Me Anything is going to be centered around financial aid for our programs. And so I'll go over a high-level overview of what that looks like. And then if you have any questions, we can do Q&A at the end. My name is Christina Taylor. I am one of the Assistant Directors of Admissions and Recruitment here at GW's GSHED School for Education and Human Development. So we'll start with an overview of the admissions process. What that looks like is, we'll go through what our goals are and the types of students that we're looking for, and then we'll provide you with the resources for the admissions process. So who is GSHED looking for? So just as a kind of brief background, GSHED stands for the Graduate School of Education and Human Development. So most of our programs are centered around education and or human development in some way, shape, or form. And so for us, students that we are looking for are students who want to make a positive difference in their career field, students whose professional goals match the education that GSHED provides, and then students who will do well in rigorous academic programs. And so we have lots of online resources for prospective students to review at their leisure, specifically around the types of programs you may be interested in. And those websites also will include admissions requirements and and program-specific requirements for the admissions process. Our websites also include contact information for all of our admissions assistant directors. So if you wanted to get in contact with any of us, you can find that information on our website. And speaking of resources, our admissions resources are listed here. Um, for our general kind of I'm going to say like front desk resources. If you have questions, you can reach out to education@gw.edu or call the 202 number listed on your screen. If you have questions or you're interested in submitting an application, you would visit the website listed under the number 1. If you have questions or if you're interested in contacting the admissions staff, you visit the website listed on number 2. And then if you're interested in any admissions events that we have coming up, like our virtual info sessions, you would visit the website listed at number 3. And so just to kind of give you all a little bit of context, what that looks like is we have an application per program that you would fill out online. We'll get more into this later on in the call, but our application fee has been waived for all of our programs. So you can submit your application free of charge. If you have questions about admissions documents, or if you want to learn more about the programs, you would contact the admission staff. We can give you as many resources as we have possible around financial aid, give you contact information for our faculty, and then also provide you with more information about events. We have virtual info sessions for the majority of our programs. We host them once a month, give or take, depending on the program. And those info sessions are faculty led, and it gives prospective students a really great opportunity to connect with faculty, to learn more about the programs and the courses that are offered from a faculty perspective. So our overview of financial aid will look like addressing the following topics. So we'll talk about tuition, we'll talk about how to cover your expenses, we'll talk about resources to lower the cost of attendance, and then we'll talk about tips to maximize return on investment. Estimating the cost of your GW education includes kind of reviewing the following. So you want to make sure you're reviewing the current rate of tuition and fees. You also want to make sure that you're reviewing the number of credits required for your program. Most of our master's programs is going to look like about 30 or so credits. Our EDD programs are about 40 to 45, 40 to 50 credits. And then our PhD programs have a different set of requirements in reference to credits. But again, all of this information is going to be on the program website. And then as you're estimating the cost of your education, you also want to review scholarships and tuition discounts and grants and things of that nature. The website listed on our page here, studentaccounts.gw.edu/graduate-tuition. It's a really good resource for prospective students to get a better understanding of what tuition looks like for our programs. And so, how to calculate your cost of attendance is probably the question that we get the most over in admissions. And so, we have come up with a bit of a formula for you all to calculate your tuition. Um, what we suggest students to do is to look at the per credit tuition rate. So, for example, some programs, their per credit tuition rate is going to be $985 or $1,230. And then you would multiply that by the number of credits. So if your program requires 30 credits, you would multiply it by 30. And then you would add any fees that you have. Those fees are usually university fees, and they can also be found on our website. And then you will subtract from that number any amount of scholarship funding that you have received. And so there's a website here at the bottom that's, again, a really helpful resource for prospective students in learning more about funding your graduate education. But again, if you have additional questions about what this looks like, you can make an appointment with any of our admissions assistant directors, and we can walk you through what that looks like for your particular program. We have several funding options for students, merit scholarships, graduate assistantships, on and off campus work, and then endowment awards. And so a bit of background about what this looks like. So for graduate assistantships, they're currently only offered for doctoral students. Um, there are assistantships that are available for master students in other schools at GW. And what we suggest for students who are interested in assistantships, we have an Office of Graduate Assistantships that can provide you with more information about what that process looks like for you. Um, as a student in GSHED, you are not solely required or you are allowed, I should say, to apply for assistantships in other departments. Unfortunately, though, we just don't have any control over whether or not you are accepted, but we can provide you with support in finding those resources. Merit scholarships are exactly what they sound like. They are scholarships centered around merit. We have a website for funding listed here on the screen that will give you a breakdown of what those scholarship options look like. And then for on and off campus work, any of your admissions assistant directors can provide you with the website for finding student employment and or traditional kind of like staff employment at GW. Most GW staff take classes here. That's one of the benefits that we have right now. And so if you are looking for employment or you're looking for the benefits of employment, do not be afraid to apply for as many jobs as you see on the website. Again, most of the staff here take full advantage of the benefits, and that's one of the perks that we all enjoy. For endowment awards, what that looks like is your first year of study, you are not eligible to apply for endowment awards. However, upon reaching your second year of study, you are eligible to apply for endowment awards. And we actually have these awards set aside specifically for students who are continuing their studies. So as you are preparing for your education and figuring out how to fund it, keep that in mind as you are reviewing the cost. Note that you will be eligible for endowment awards when you reach your second year of study. For external scholarships, we do have a scholarship website, again, or funding website that lists these scholarships. Um, we do not have any control over, um, which students receive the scholarships or not, but we do encourage all of our students to apply for any and everything that you are eligible for, just because we are aware that funding can be challenging, but we want to make sure that we support you all in figuring out, what that looks like for your specific situation. With external scholarships, they are open to all students, and there are some specific guidelines around the requirements and the eligibility for these scholarships. And so, what we suggest as you are reviewing is to make sure that you are eligible for the scholarship prior to applying. If you have any questions about that or need any assistance, we can provide you with help in reference to making sure that the scholarships you're interested in, you are eligible for. There's also a website here on the bottom of your screen that will that will help you find more information about the scholarship opportunities. And so our tips to maximize the return on your investment, again, we strongly encourage all of our students to apply for scholarships and grants every year that you are enrolled in a program here. Again, we know that choosing a graduate school and choosing a graduate program is a really big decision, but also we know that funding is a big part of that conversation, and so we fully support the idea of students applying for everything that they are eligible for. We also suggest that when possible, pay down your loans as you go. Um, while some of you may or may not be familiar, when you are a student, when you're enrolled in courses, your loans are deferred, which means they are not collecting interest. And so one of the suggestions that we give to students is if you can make payments while you're in school, that will kind of eat away at some of the costs that you will, or the balance that you'll have at the end of your educational journey. Um, GW has a really robust career center for undergraduate and graduate students. And specifically within GSHED, we have student success coaches who can help you with applying for jobs. They do resume review, they do interview prep. They can actually also help you apply for specific roles if you have position descriptions. And so we definitely want to encourage all of our students to one, keep that in mind as you are applying, but then also once you become a student here at GW, we want to encourage you to take advantage of all of those resources to help you secure a job after you have completed your program or while you're in school, depending on what your goals are. And speaking of goals, one of the things that we also note is that if your program allows, you can work on or off campus, and that also will boost your resume and increase your chances of making more money. And one of the things that we suggest, finally, is to be cautious about deferring. And so, a little background on what that means. So, for students who apply for our graduate programs, you are allowed to defer for up to 1 year. Um, we understand that sometimes, life happens and life comes at you fast. And so, what we suggest to students is if you think you may need to defer, definitely get in contact with your admissions assistant director, but in that conversation, please note that any scholarship funding that you may have received may or may not be available for the following year that you defer. And what that means is if you were awarded a $10,000 scholarship for fall of 2025, if you defer to fall of 26, that money may or may not be available because the way our scholarship dissemination is set up, it varies per year based on the calendar budget. So while deferring is always an option, we definitely suggest that if that's something that you may need to do, to connect with your assistant director of admissions to get more information on that prior to making a decision. And that concludes the first kind of portion or section of our presentation. What I will do is I will go back a few slides and then we can open it up for Q&A.